Hello friends, today's video is all about red, white, and blue, and obviously some storms. Can you hear the thunder rolling in? Wow, we've been having some really great storms in Texas. If I wait until there's no thunder, I may not get an intro filmed. So let's just move on. Red, white, and blue, Patriotic tier tray DIY projects. If you're not really into that, you could take these projects and make them your own. Just use the techniques for inspiration and make them your own. Also, I have a couple friends joining me today. We're doing a collab. We're friends outside of YouTube as well. So this has been really fun. Bobby from Arrows DIY and Leanne from Simply Enjoying Crafting. Their videos will be linked in the description box below. So please go and see what they created as well. Let's get crafting. Okay, we're going to start this first DIY out with some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. And Leanne told me she was using the same scrapbook paper, so I can't wait to see what she does with hers. Little scrap wood, some little tiny stars I got in a pack from Amazon, and some weathered wood that just had a little bit left in the jar. So I just added some water, watered it down, and then I'm going to wipe off the excess. Now I'm going to do this on several projects in this video, and I'm not going to show you this process in every single project. So if you forget how to do it, you can always come back to this very first project in the video. It's really a simple process, and we've done it multiple times. Now we're going to take this scrapbook paper, and I'm going to measure off how much I want to rip off. It's the width of that little block of wood. Now I'm just going to take this metal ruler and rip it. Now I saw my friend Trish do that on a video, and I was like, hey, great minds think alike. I do that too. So it gives you that nice ripped edge, but it gives you a straight line as well. So I'm going to do these all about the same width and length, and I'm just going to do 2 red ones and 2 white ones, and then I'm going to do a little square of blue because we are going to make a flag. And then I'm going to take some layered chocolate paint by DIY, and I'm going to take a little sponge brush pouncer, and I'm going to just dab it on the edges. And then I have some decrepit dust by DIY on that paper towel, and then I'm just kind of running it through that dust while that paint's still a little bit wet. So it just makes that paper look a little bit aged. And when you rip it, sometimes you get that white raw edge. So that just kind of makes that white raw edge look a little bit worn. Now I'm taking some Mod Podge, and I'm going to give this little block of wood a little good coat of Mod Podge, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry. And then we're going to paint those little stars. I put them on a piece of rolled painter's tape, and I'm using beadboard by DIY or vintage linen. Did I say beadboard? And now I'm going to take these little strips and use the block of wood that has Mod Podge on it. We're going to use the iron-on method. I'm going to use my little iron, and I'm just ironing one little piece just to keep it in place, because I just want to place them where I want them and make sure they're going to all fit and lay like I want them to before I commit to ironing them all down. Okay, so I'm going to do red, white, red, white, red, white, red. Start with red, end with white, end with red. Oh my goodness, I cannot even talk. Obviously, you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. Oh my goodness, I absolutely love the way this turns out. I don't know, this might be my favorite one that I do today. And then I'm going to put my parchment paper on, and when you put this iron on, it reactivates that Mod Podge. It seals in that paper flawlessly. It's so beautiful. I'm going to take my little finger sander, and it just works perfect to remove all of that excess paper. Then I'm going to take the little blue square, and I'm going to put Mod Podge on the back of it and set it aside to dry. And it dries really quickly, really 30, 45 seconds. And then I'm going to place it where I want it. I'm going to put my parchment paper on, iron it on, seal it in, and then I'm going to use a little bit more of that layered chocolate and just you know, dab it around the edges. I'm going to use an old chippy, little tiny chippy brush, a worn out brush, and just go around the edges. I feel like it just gives it a little bit more defined edges and gives it some dimension. And I like this look. If you don't like it, leave it plain. I'm going to use some tweezers, and I'm using my Quick and Thick, Type Bond Quick and Thick, and I have some glue up there on that napkin. I'm just dipping these little stars in that glue and placing them on here. And this is what it looks like. I used Big Top by DIY to seal it on all the sides, the front, the back. And this is how our little wood block flag for our tier tray turns out. Another little piece of scrap wood and a piece of canvas drop cloth and some more of those little teeny tiny stars from that little bag of stars that I got from Amazon. I'm going to use some tomato IOD ink and the apothecary stamp labels, apothecary label stamps from IOD. I get my IOD stamps, DIY paints, all of the goodies from Sammy at unicorndustdesigns.com. Now I'm putting America on here. I stamped it on a scrap piece first to make sure it would fit and how it looked. And so I'm going to just press it down and let it absorb into the fabric, this canvas drop cloth. I took all the letters off, and I'm going to reuse the A since I only have one of each letter. And there you go. I love how it turns out. I'm going to use my Type Bond Quick and Thick and put some on the back. Now you can see that little scrap of wood. I went ahead and used that kind of staining method with the watered down paint like I told you we were going to use on several projects. Then I'm just going to glue that down. I did the little stars the same way I did in the last project, painted them with some beadboard or vintage linen. I can't remember. I think it's beadboard. And then we're just going to glue 3 on each end. I'm going to take a little piece of blue twine. It had multiple layers. I separated it all out and made a tiny little bow. Teeny tiny little bow. So tiny I'm using tweezers to pick it up. I don't know why I think that's funny, but I don't know why. That just hit me as funny all of a sudden. Put it down with some tweezers. And this is a cute little sitter for our tier tray. Okay, this little house was given to me in a box of goodies that someone donated to me, and we're going to use this scrap paper again. Okay, I painted the house with that same process with the watered down weathered wood and wiping it off, and now we're going to put some Mod Podge on the roof. And then we're going to set it aside and let it completely dry. And then I cut a piece of that scrapbook paper to fit the top completely. Now, I didn't use parchment paper on this because the scrapbook paper is actually pretty thick and I didn't think it would burn. And it didn't, but I was very careful. And so I got it adhered on there, and then I'm using my finger sander to sand off the excess. Now, this edge had a little scallop to it. So I'm going to slow this down, and I'm going to show you that I just went in with the finger sander, and I went on the side and then on the other side. And on the side, you know, just back and forth on the sides, kind of like in a zigzag or a pointy motion until I got all those little sides, all the paper sanded off, and it worked like a charm. These little finger sanders are awesome. I really hesitated for a long time and procrastinated getting one, but I highly recommend them. And they actually have them on Temu for really cheap. Now I'm going to take that layered chocolate and outline my project again. If you want to call this distressing, you can call it distressing. Just giving it a little vintage look. Now I'm taking Sandy Blonde by DIY, and I'm just going to give it a little extra wood grain look. Just dry brush a little bit on there because, who knows, I just wanted to give it a little extra something, something. And then I had these stars in my stash, I've had them for several years, and I just decided to give it a messy coat of the Sandy Blonde, both of these. And then I'm going to take Vintage Linen. It's a beautiful white paint by DIY, and I'm going to give both of these a very messy coat as well. So you can still see a little bit of the faded burlap behind it, but not really. So it's just messy coats. And then I'm going to seal it all with some clear DIY wax. The little house and the stars are both going to get a good coat and a good buffing with some clear wax. And then I'm going to use the Titebond Quick and Thick and a little bit of hot glue to glue the star onto the middle of the front of the house, right there in the center. And then I'm just going to use the Quick Bond to glue this little star because I didn't really want to burn my fingers trying to put hot glue on that little surface. And this stuff dries really quick, and it's going to hold that just fine. Put just a couple little sprigs of greenery. These were just little sprigs that I cut off of a little branch of greenery, just little bits and bobbles that I saved, and a little twine bow. And I think this little house is perfect for a tier tray. This is a fun little project using one of the rungs from one of those chairs that I tore apart and got the spindles off of. But this was just one of the plain, solid, smooth rungs. I'm going to take my tiny little miter saw and I'm going to cut 3 lengths all the same from this little, you could use a dowel stick as well. I just had this in my stash and wanted to use it. I sanded it down a little bit to get that slick surface off and gave each of them a coat of beadboard. And then I went back and used Marquee and Hey Sailor. Now I'm going to drill a hole in the top of each one of them with my drill. And then I'm going to use my finger sander and I'm going to sand back a little bit of that paint. So you can see a little bit of the white through there, and some of it I sanded all the way back down to the wood, just distressing them a little bit. And then I have a little bit of clear wax on that rag and I'm wiping it. Okay, now I'm trying to find which side I want to put these little stars. So I've got still yet some more of those teeny tiny little stars that require tweezers. And I am gluing them to the top or the front of these are going to be little firecrackers. Okay, then I took some more little strips of that scrapbook paper and I put some Mod Podge on the back of it. I did not get that on camera. I apologize. But you know how to do that. Just paint some Mod Podge on the back of it, and then I'm using my little iron to iron it on. If you don't want to do this method, you absolutely could just use whatever method you want to use to decoupage. Okay, then I'm going to use some Quick and Thick by Titebond, and this is just some, what is this? Is this twine or embroidery floss? I think this is embroidery floss. And I just twisted it all together, and I used a little bit of that Titebond on my fingers as I twisted it, so it made it a little stiff when it dried. And then I left the ends sticking out. You can see how I'm like twisting it. And then I left the ends sticking out, so they're a little bit frayed. So yeah, and then it just kind of looks like this. Okay, so then I'm going to show you the third one, I guess. Just drop it a little, dip it in the glue a little bit, and then we're going to, I guess I'm going to show you all 3 of them, just so you can be sure you know how to do it. Then I'm going to glue the red and the white one together with a little hot glue and a little bit of the Quick and Thick, Titebond Quick and Thick. And the same thing with the other 2, but we're going to put the blue one up on top because it is so cute with those teeny tiny little stars that require tweezers to put them on. Then we're just going to take some regular jute twine and tie them together. Sweet and simple. This is really a scrap DIY. This little tray came from some stuff my sister sent me. I do not know where she got it, but it's adorable. And these are some little blocks. I cut off the ends of those spindles that I've been using up in my stash. And they fit perfect in that little tray. I'm going to use the weathered wood, all watered down, to paint the tray. I'm going to paint it on and wipe it off, just like I've been doing on every project, and the vintage and on the blocks. And then now I'm going to take the vintage linen and I'm going to paint the blocks, all the sides of the blocks with the vintage linen. And voila, there they are. Now I'm going to take the layered chocolate and do the edges just like all the other projects. They're all going to be so matchy-matchy, but I like it. When I have my tier tray decor, I kind of like for them to all coordinate and be matchy-matchy. So this is all like a little collection. And so I'm just showing you how I do it, mostly around the edges. These next steps are very repetitive, so I'm just going to let you watch me do this while I tell you about my fantastic friends that are joining me in this collab today. Favi from Arrows DIY is an amazing creator who is a mom with 6 kids and still manages to have a YouTube channel and create some amazing DIYs. She is funny, she is fantastic, she is fabulous. You need to check her out. Also, Leanne from Simply Enjoying Crafting. She is amazing. She does very simple crafts that you do not need a whole lot of supplies to do. And she is funny and she has a great personality, and you are absolutely going to love her and the crafts that she does. So be sure and check these ladies out. They will be linked in the description box below. Okay, we're going to iron on these little pieces of scrapbook paper and onto these blocks. And then with the IOD letter stamps, we're going to stamp U, S, and A onto these 3 little blocks. You know, I did see that Dollar Tree is now carrying some of these type of alphabet stamps. So if you don't have the means to get a hold of some IOD stamps, maybe check those out and see if they work for you. I'm also going to use my little finger sander to sand off the excess paper of the scrapbook paper and just around the edges a little. I don't want to sand off all that beautiful paint that I put on there. I'm also going to sand the USA a little bit just to distress it. And then I'm going to take the clear wax by DIY and give the blocks all a good wax and the tray. Now you see me put a little bit of the wax, I dip in and then put it on my hand because I don't want one big glob to go on when I very first put the brush onto my project. And then I can always go back and get a little more off my hand. So that's why I do that. And then I just rub it in good. And then sometimes I go back with a soft cloth and buff it out a little bit. And sometimes I just leave it like that. Depends on the look you're going for. Now I'm going to use the Quick Bond, the Type Bond Quick and Thick. And I'm going to just use both of those on there. I'm going to glue all the blocks in place. And if they're a little bit wonky, that's okay because this is a rustic DIY. And then I'm going to make a little twine bow to put up in the upper left-hand corner and one of those teeny tiny little stars. And I think this is just perfect for my tier tray. Let's get out the IOD primitive mold and some air dry clay. I'm going to put some cornstarch in the mold. We're going to make this little stripe. We're going to use this as a stripe, this little border thing. Now, I am not the best with clay, and this is not the best clay, but this is what I have, and I have a big old tub of it, a big old. That's good. That's Texas for a lot of. Okay, I have a lot of this clay, and so we are just going to use it. Probably need to let my grandkids use it, and then I did order some of the DOS air dry clay, but this worked. It's just not the best. Okay, so I put it in there, and then I'm going to put it around this little clay pot, the top of it. As I was pulling it out, it ripped and it broke, and that's okay, because the good thing about the clay is you can piece it back together and you don't even know. You can't even tell. So I'm using the Tite Bond, and I put it on my project instead of on the mold this time. And I just stick that together, and yeah, it's really hard to tell where you even pieced it together. Now, I did have some cracking, and I did paint it while it was wet. I did all the things everybody says to do. I just don't have a whole lot of luck with this. But after it dried and it cracked, I used some of that Tite Bond Quick and Thick glue, and I used it to fill the holes a little bit, or the cracks, and it actually looked good. So, and it dries, clear, so you didn't really see it. So that worked out good. So now I'm painting this with vintage linen. I'm taking this scrapbook paper, and I'm cutting that flag out. Now, I left it a little bit big, but I cut out a little bit more than I needed to because I'm going to rip the edges. So I sprayed a little water on my little silicone mat, and I'm just going to use this paintbrush to really wet the edges down a lot. And then I started ripping it, and then I decided I'm not getting a very good straight edge. I still had some of that blue on there. I used my fingernail because I've got the silicone mat. It has a lot of give to it. So I have this little yellow scraper, and it worked perfect, y'all. Now, this is scrapbook paper, not a napkin or, tissue paper. So that worked really good. And I'm doing this same process that I did with the other paper with this little sponge dauber and some layered chocolate. I'm going to use the Mod Podge and put it on the back of this paper and spread it out all over it, making sure I get it all the way out to the edges really good. I'm going to set it aside to dry. Now, I'm going to use this layered chocolate, and I'm going to just distress this a little bit. I'm going to use this to get the details to come out in this mold, but I also wanted this little pot to look a little dirty. I just want it to look a little dirty. Like, we really want things to look clean in our house, correct? But this, I just wanted to look a little dirty. So I'm using the iron-on method. Yes, on a clay pot. Now, it did get a little hot in my hand, but not so much that I couldn't hold it. But it ironed on perfectly. And so I'm going to seal it with some clear wax by DIY, the entire thing inside and out. And then I'm going to put a little bit of this foam, floral foam that I get from Dollar Tree. And these little florals I picked up at a thrift store. I'm just going to snip them all off and poke them all in. And this turned out so precious. Let me know if you like this little pot. I think it turned out adorable. Let me know which one of these little DIYs for the tier tray is your favorite. And even if you don't decorate for Patriotic DIY, with Patriotic DIYs, let me know if you would do any of these with different scrapbook paper or different colors. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope that you got some inspiration. Be sure and check out my friends' videos linked in the description box below. I'll try to pin them in the first comment in case you can't find the description box or you don't scroll down to find the videos. So I'll try to link those in the pinned comment, which will be the first comment that you see. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.